How did George improve?
He did apparently lift through the yellow.
Yeah, but it was a double yellow.
I'd need to double check that. So medical car turns 7. So medical cars at turn 8 now.
Mercedes did not just win pole in Austria. They walked straight into Ferrari's biggest accusation of the weekend. Verstappen crashed. The yellow flags came out. Antonelli backed off. But Russell kept going, crossed the line, and took pole away from Leclerc and Hamilton by just a few tenths. And that is when Ferrari demanded answers. Because this was not about emotion anymore. It was about evidence. Inside Russell's Mercedes, the data knew everything. The throttle trace, the braking point, the exact speed through the yellow flag zone, the tiny lift that could either save his pole or destroy it. Vasseur wanted the FIA to look at that moment because Ferrari believed the front row had been taken from them in the most controversial way possible. But here is the part Mercedes should fear. Even if Russell's pole survived, Ferrari had already exposed something bigger. The red cars were suddenly fast enough for one yellow flag decision to change everything. And when Ferrari becomes fast enough for every decision to matter, Mercedes does not just have a pole position problem. They have a championship problem. Subscribe to the channel. Austria was supposed to be a Mercedes-controlled weekend. That was the expectation before the session turned into one of the most uncomfortable qualifying stories of the season. The Red Bull Ring is not a track that lets teams hide. It is short, sharp, and brutal. If a car lacks straight-line power, the lap exposes it. If the tires are not working, the stopwatch exposes it. If the driver cannot trust the car under braking, the circuit punishes him immediately. And for Ferrari that mattered more than usual. Because the SF26 had one clear identity before Austria. It was strong in the corners, but vulnerable where Mercedes usually hurt them most. On the straights, that weakness had followed Ferrari all season. They could produce beautiful speed through the middle of a lap. They could carry grip where other cars looked nervous. But when the track opened up, when pure acceleration mattered, Mercedes still had a weapon Ferrari could not ignore. Austria should have made that weapon even more dangerous. Long acceleration zones, heavy braking, quick exits, short lap time, no hiding place. So when Friday arrived and Ferrari looked more than half a second away from Mercedes in qualifying trim, the paddock did not treat it like a shock. It looked logical. Mercedes were quick. Russell looked composed. Antonelli looked strong. Ferrari looked like a team trying to solve a problem too late in the weekend. Leclerc wanted more grip. Hamilton felt the car locking. Those details mattered because they were not small complaints. A driver asking for grip is really asking for trust. A driver complaining about locking is really saying the braking zone does not feel safe enough to attack. At Austria, trust is everything. A driver has to brake late, turn sharply, and get back on the power without hesitation. If the car slides, the next straight becomes longer. If the car locks, the driver leaves margin. If the driver leaves margin, the lap dies. So Ferrari's Friday did not look like the beginning of a front row fight. It looked like damage limitation. But here is where the story starts to twist. Ferrari had not arrived empty-handed. They had brought the ADUO engine update, the development step designed to attack the power unit weakness that had hurt them across the season. Publicly, the team had been careful. They did not describe it as a revolution. They did not promise that Mercedes would suddenly be under pressure. They made it sound measured, controlled, almost modest. But Formula One teams do not always reveal ambition with words. They reveal it with risk. And this update carried risk. Ferrari's new engine direction was built around more aggressive operating conditions. More heat, more pressure, more efficiency. The goal was clear. Extract more performance when the driver opened the throttle, without destroying the strengths that already made the SF26 dangerous in the corners. That is not easy. A Formula One car is not a collection of separate parts. It is a chain. Change the way the engine delivers power and the rear tires feel it. Change the rear tire behavior and the balance changes. Change the balance and the driver's confidence changes. Change the driver's confidence and the lap time changes. One improvement can create 3 new problems. That is why Ferrari's Friday was so worrying. The new package was there. But the stopwatch had not yet confirmed that it was truly working. Inside the garage, Ferrari had to answer one brutal question. Was the performance missing or was it trapped? Because those are 2 completely different problems. If performance is missing, the weekend becomes survival. If performance is trapped, the engineers still have a chance to unlock it before qualifying. Ferrari spent the night searching for that key. They studied Leclerc's grip issue. They studied Hamilton's locking problem. They looked at tire temperatures, throttle application, braking traces, sector times, and the way the car was using the new engine characteristics. They were not just trying to make the car faster. They were trying to make the whole package connect. By Saturday, something had changed. Hamilton was suddenly much closer to Russell in final practice. The gap that looked terrifying on Friday had shrunk into something Ferrari could work with. Leclerc still had work to do, but the direction was clear. Ferrari were no longer just trying to survive Austria. They were beginning to threaten it. And that mattered because Mercedes still believed the circuit was theirs to control. Russell had pace. Antonelli had pace. The car looked suited to the track. But Ferrari had one thing that can ruin a favorite's weekend: momentum. Not the loud kind. Not the kind fans always notice immediately. The quiet kind inside a garage, when engineers start looking at the screens differently. When drivers start reporting that the car is responding. When a setup change suddenly makes the tires feel alive. When an upgrade that looked modest begins to show something more serious. That is not a story that feels small inside a team garage. That is the kind of sequence that makes engineers stop talking and start looking for data. And the data was everything. Throttle trace, brake pressure, speed through the yellow flag sector. The exact moment Russell lifted. The exact moment he went back on power. Whether he lost enough time. Whether he showed enough caution. That was the hidden trial inside the Mercedes. Because in modern Formula One, the car remembers what everyone else argues about. A driver can say he lifted. A rival can say it was not enough. A team principal can point to the rule. Fans can split into sides. But the car records every movement with cold precision. And Ferrari wanted that evidence reviewed. Not because emotion could overturn a pole. Because numbers could. If Russell had not slowed enough, his lap could be deleted. If his lap was deleted, Leclerc could move to pole, Hamilton could move closer, and the entire shape of the race could change before it even began. That is why Mercedes were suddenly under pressure. They had the fastest time. But they now had to survive the question behind it. Was Russell's pole legal under yellow flags? Russell's defense was clear. He said he saw the yellow, braked, and lost time compared with the advantage he had earlier in the lap. In simple terms, his argument was that the yellow flag cost him time, which showed he had responded. Mercedes backed him. Their position was that he had lifted, that it was a single yellow, and that he had done enough for the regulations. But Ferrari were focused on what the moment looked like from their side. And from their side, the problem was not only legal, it was emotional. Because they had just produced their best qualifying performance of the weekend. They had gone from half a second away to fighting Mercedes at the front. They had finally shown that their new engine step could change the picture. And then, just when the front row seemed possible, a lap under yellow flags took it away. That is why the word fairness became more powerful than the word speed. Ferrari knew the rulebook mattered. But they also knew the image mattered. A crashed Red Bull. A yellow flag. One Mercedes backing out. Another Mercedes finishing the lap and taking pole. That image was always going to create anger. Then came the key distinction. It was treated as a single yellow, not a double yellow. That is the detail that protected Russell. A double yellow is severe. It effectively tells a driver the danger is serious enough that the lap should be abandoned. You slow significantly. You do not continue chasing a personal best. The attempt is over in spirit. A single yellow is less strict. The driver still has to slow down. He still has to show caution. But the lap can survive if the stewards are satisfied that the driver reduced speed in a clear enough way. And that phrase became the heart of the fight. Clear enough. What does that mean when pole is on the line? What does that mean when a rival has just crashed? What does that mean when one driver gives up his lap, but another keeps his alive? Mercedes believed the answer was in Russell's data. Ferrari believed the situation deserved much closer scrutiny. The FIA looked at the evidence and decided there was no need for further investigation. No penalty. No deleted lap. No Ferrari pole. Russell stayed first. For Mercedes, that decision was relief. For Ferrari, it was a bitter ending to a session that had almost become a statement. But the damage did not disappear with the decision. Because even though Russell kept pole, the controversy had exposed the pressure Mercedes were now under. Ferrari were close enough to make every detail matter. That is the real difference. When a team is far behind, these moments become arguments around the edges. But when the gap shrinks, every flag matters. Every lift matters. Every steward decision matters. Every tenth becomes political. Austria showed Mercedes that Ferrari were no longer safely behind. The SF26 had found speed where Mercedes expected advantage. Hamilton and Leclerc had both put pressure on the timing screens. The new engine update had done enough to change the shape of qualifying. And Vasseur had made it clear Ferrari would not quietly accept a decision that cost them a possible pole. That matters for the championship, because a title fight is not only fought with upgrades and lap times. It is fought with pressure, with challenges, with how loudly a team defends its chances when the margins become too narrow to ignore. Ferrari did not win the FIA argument in Austria, but they sent Mercedes a message. We are close enough now to fight every detail. And that may be the part Mercedes should fear most.